I should have known something was off the moment she smiled at me that morning. Not the kind of smile that says, "I'm happy for you," but the kind that feels practiced, like she was wearing it for show. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was my wedding day. I wasn't about to let old insecurities crawl back in. I kept reminding myself, "You made it. You're here. Don't let her ruin this." But deep down, I always knew she didn't like me. She smiled in every picture, toasted, to our happiness, even helped me into my dress. But there was something behind her eyes, like she was waiting for her moment, and it turns out she was. We were just about to cut the cake. People were laughing, clapping, taking photos. I felt like I was floating. It was one of those rare moments where you forget all the noise of life. Everything felt full of love, full of joy. And then she stood up, hand on her belly, and suddenly the room quieted. It was like the air got sucked out of the walls. "I have something to say," she said, loud and clear, with that same fake smile stretched across her face. I didn't want to take attention away from the bride, but "I'm pregnant." For a few seconds, no one reacted. It was awkward, confused. And then a few people clapped, hesitantly, politely. My husband turned to me, stunned. I laughed. Not because I thought it was funny. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. It felt like my lungs forgot how to breathe. I couldn't believe it. She had just hijacked my wedding. My wedding. Who does that? I wanted to scream, cry, run, but I just stood there smiling, pretending it was fine, pretending I wasn't dying inside. And she just stood there too, basking in the attention, rubbing her stomach like she was proud of it, like it gave her the right to ruin my moment. And then, something I'll never forget happened. Her husband, quiet, calm, unshaken, stood up from his seat. He didn't look at anyone. He didn't smile. He walked straight to the mic, the same one she had just used to steal my day. And he said, "Before we all start celebrating this so-called announcement, I think it's time everyone knew. The baby isn't mine." Silence. Pure, thick, heavy silence. She froze. Her smile dropped. She looked like someone just ripped the ground from under her. Her hand slowly fell away from her belly. He continued, his voice shaking just a little. But his eyes were solid, cold. "I got the DNA results last week. She cheated on me, and I can't stand here and let her lie to everyone. Especially, not today, not at their wedding." He looked at me, just for a moment, and there was something in his expression. Not pity, not even regret, just honesty. Like he needed me to know he wasn't a part of her games. And then he walked away, just like that. She didn't move, she didn't speak. She just stood there like a statue in front of everyone, exposed, humiliated, unraveling. And me? I just watched, frozen. I should have felt angry. I should have cried. But instead, I felt relief. Like the universe had finally stepped in and said, "Enough." I'd spent so long trying to keep the peace, trying to be polite, to not overreact. But that day, I didn't have to say a word. Karma did the talking for me. People avoided eye contact. My guests were stunned. Her family looked like they'd been hit by a truck. And she, the sister-in-law who always tried to make me feel small, had just made herself the center of a disaster. I stood there in my wedding dress, my heart pounding, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one feeling ashamed. She was, and that was the beginning of everything changing. She never said it outright, not once. But I knew. I knew from the very first day I met her that she didn't like me. It was in the way she said my name, like it didn't quite belong in her mouth. The way her smile paused just half a second too long, like she was forcing it to stay in place. The way she introduced me to others. This is my brother's girlfriend. Always with that little hesitation, as if she couldn't quite bring herself to say it without choking on the words. I wasn't like her. I didn't grow up going to private schools or brunching at country clubs. I wasn't polished. I wasn't designer. I didn't come from money. I came from love, though. A lot of it. My parents didn't have much, but they gave everything they could, and maybe that was the first strike against me. I was raised with warmth, not wealth. She was the golden child, the perfect daughter, Ivy League, internships abroad. Her hair always done, her voice always soft and calculated. People adored her, her parents praised her. But the minute I came into their lives, I think something inside her shifted. I wasn't part of her carefully curated world. And worst of all, her parents liked me. No, they loved me. It started small. Her mom would compliment the food I brought to dinner. Her dad would ask for my opinion at the table. They laughed at my jokes. They saw me. Really saw me. Not as an outsider, not as an embarrassment, but as someone who belonged. She hated that. She started making little comments. At first, I brushed them off. Like when she said, "You're so brave to wear that color. I could never pull that off with my complexion." Or when I got her Dad a birthday gift and she said, "Oh, don't worry. I already got him something, but yours is cute." It was constant. The subtle jabs, the digs masked as compliments. But what made it worse was how polite she was about it. How careful. She never raised her voice. She never rolled her eyes dramatically. No, she just slipped in her little poisons like sugar and tea. And I tried. I really did. I told myself she was just protective, that maybe she just needed time to get to know me. I offered to help her plan family events. I complimented her. I defended her when my friends said she gave them weird vibes. I tried to prove that I wasn't a threat, that I wasn't trying to steal anything from her. But eventually, I had to admit it. She didn't want peace. She wanted power. She wanted to feel above me, to remind me, without saying it, that I didn't come from where she came from, that no matter how much love her parents gave me, I would never be one of them. I was always going to be the girl who didn't quite fit, and the more they embraced me, the more she rejected me. I remember one night, we were at a family dinner, and her dad said something like, "You know, I think she's the best thing to ever happen to our son." He was talking about me. Everyone smiled. Even her mom nodded. But her? She didn't even look up from her wine glass. She just muttered, "Well, some people rise fast, but not everyone stays up there." That one stung. It wasn't even what she said. It was the way she said it. Like she knew something I didn't. Like she was warning me. I should have paid more attention. Because what I didn't realize, what I didn't want to believe, was that she wasn't just being cold or catty. She was planning something. Quietly, patiently, and she was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. She couldn't stand that her parents adored me, that her brother chose me, that her perfect little family wasn't revolving around her anymore. So she found a way to take the spotlight back. A way to make sure that on the one day I was supposed to be celebrated, the world would revolve around her again. I thought the worst thing she'd ever done was roll her eyes at my dress or whisper behind my back. But no, the worst thing she did was smile at me the morning of my wedding, knowing full well she was about to ruin it. And the truth is I felt it. Somewhere deep in my gut, I felt the tension, the fakeness. But I ignored it, because I wanted peace more than I wanted to be right. I didn't want drama. I didn't want to believe someone could be so cruel just to feel important again. But she could. And she did. And that was the day I stopped trying to belong. I had dreamt of that day since I was a little girl. Not in some fairy tale way. I didn't need a castle or a white horse. I just wanted one day. One day that was truly mine. One day where I could stand next to the man I loved and feel like I mattered. Where I wasn't the outsider. Where I wasn't compared, or judged, or picked apart. Just one day to feel safe, seen, celebrated. And for a little while, that's exactly what it was. The ceremony was beautiful. He looked at me like I was the only person in the world. His parents cried happy tears. Mine did too. Everyone kept saying how perfect it all felt. And it did. For a little while, it really did. We were surrounded by love, laughter, warmth. I kept thinking, maybe this is my turning point. Maybe this is when I finally stopped feeling like I'm not enough. Then she stood up. I still hear her voice in my head even now. All fake sweetness and fake humility. I know this day isn't about me, she said. But I have a special announcement. She put her hand on her stomach. And just like that, the air changed. It wasn't the words. It was the timing, the audacity. The way she said it like she was the gift, like her presence, her news, her body, her life, was more important than mine. That her pregnancy, real or not, mattered more than my vows. I froze. I didn't say a word. I just stood there in my wedding dress, my mouth slightly open, like maybe I'd heard it wrong. Maybe she didn't just try to hijack my wedding. But she did. Some people clapped, others looked confused. I saw his mother and my husband's mom close her eyes, like she couldn't believe what was happening. I saw her father shift uncomfortably in his seat. And me? I smiled. Not a real smile. Just one of those tight-lipped, don't let them see you bleed smiles. The kind you wear when you've been embarrassed, but you're pretending it's fine. It wasn't fine. I felt like I was sinking. Like all the insecurities I had buried deep inside me. All the fears that I didn't belong, that I wasn't good enough, that I was just a placeholder in this perfect family, were being dragged out into the open, for everyone to see. She made my wedding about her, and I let her. I stood there like a fool, trying to stay graceful while she burned everything down with a smirk. But then something happened. Her husband stood up. He didn't rush. He didn't yell. He walked slowly, calmly, like he was stepping into a role he'd rehearsed in his head 1,000 times. "Can I say something?" he asked, reaching for the mic. She looked at him, confused, maybe a little flustered, like this wasn't part of her plan. And then he said it. "I think before we start celebrating this announcement, there's something you should all know. The baby isn't mine. You could have heard a pin drop." He paused, looked around the room, then right at her. "I got a paternity test. It came in last week. She's been cheating on me. And I'm done pretending." She gasped. I think she tried to say something, but nothing came out. Her face drained of all color. The hand that had been proudly resting on her belly, it dropped like dead weight. Everyone just stared. No one moved. No one said a word. I stood there, still, frozen, but no longer embarrassed. I watched her crumble. The sister-in-law who had spent years making me feel like I didn't belong, unravel in front of her entire family, in front of her parents, in front of mine, in front of the very people she wanted so badly to impress. She had used my wedding as her stage, but she had no idea that the script had already changed. Her husband didn't stop there. He looked straight at her and said, "I stayed quiet for too long. You didn't just lie to me. You tried to humiliate someone who never did anything but try to love this family. I'm done covering for you." And then he handed the mic back. Just like that. He walked off, calm, collected, like the storm had passed through him and now he was clean. She didn't follow him. She didn't cry. She just stood there, eyes wide, lips trembling, completely and utterly exposed. And me? I felt something I didn't expect. Relief, not joy, not vengeance, just relief. Because for the first time in years, I didn't have to prove anything. I didn't have to argue or explain or defend myself. She showed everyone exactly who she was, and no one could unsee it. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. Her hatred had never really been about me. It was about her jealousy, her fear, her insecurity. She didn't hate me because I wasn't enough. She hated me because I was enough. Enough for her parents to love, enough for her brother to marry, enough to threaten the image she built her entire life around. She tried to destroy me, but in the end, she destroyed herself. And I just stood there, finally free. After everything that happened that day, people kept checking in with me. "Are you okay? That must have been so traumatic. I can't believe she did that on your wedding day." But the truth? I was more than okay. For the first time in a long, long time. I felt seen, not as someone's girlfriend, not as the girl trying too hard to be accepted by a family who always looked down on her, not as the second best to their golden daughter, but as a woman who had been quietly enduring years of passive jabs, subtle dismissals, and the kind of emotional abuse that's so polished, so socially acceptable, it looks like kindness from the outside. That day, she exposed herself. But in doing that, she freed me. I didn't have to keep proving I belonged. I didn't have to bite my tongue anymore, or pretend I was okay with the way she rolled her eyes at everything I said, or smiled that fake little smile every time her parents gave me a compliment. Something shifted inside me after that. I could feel it. Like a heaviness I didn't know I was carrying had finally been set down. All those years I spent walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger her jealousy or offend her delicate sense of superiority. Gone. Done. I stopped shrinking, and I didn't do it dramatically. I didn't stand on tables or scream or write some angry, public post. I just started choosing myself. In small ways, at first. I stopped attending family dinners where I wasn't genuinely wanted. I stopped over-explaining myself to people who had already decided how they felt about me. I let go of the desperate need to be liked, especially by people who only valued perfection and performance. I set boundaries. Real ones. And when people crossed them, I didn't smile and let it slide. I spoke up, politely, clearly, firmly. And I didn't apologize for it. I had spent so long being the nice girl, the quiet one, the one who keeps the peace, even when it costs her everything. But I realized something powerful. Peace that comes at the cost of your dignity isn't peace at all. I wasn't the same person after that day. And thank God for that. Because the old me. She would have cried in the car and apologized for making things awkward. She would have blamed herself for the drama. She would have wondered what she could have done differently to make her sister-in-law love her. But the new me? She knew the truth, that no amount of kindness, effort, or silence can fix someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. That her hate wasn't proof of my failure, it was proof of her pain. And her choices? They were hers to own, not mine to fix. It's funny. People kept acting like I was the victim in all of it. Like I was broken. But I wasn't broken. I was rebuilt. And the life I started building from that moment on? It was finally mine. I stopped attending out of obligation. I stopped saying yes when I meant no. I started doing things that made me feel good, not just things that looked good on paper. I started protecting my peace like it was sacred. Because it was. And my husband, he noticed. At first he was confused by the shift. He'd say things like, "You've changed." And I would just smile and say, "I had to." He supported me, even if he didn't fully understand. He saw the way I stood taller, the way I laughed more, the way I didn't overthink every little thing I said or did. I had finally let go of the need to be accepted. And in that space, I finally accepted myself, even the hard parts. Even the past, I forgave myself for all the years I stayed silent, for the way I let her take up so much emotional space in my life, for the times I questioned my own worth because of her sharp little comments and backhanded compliments. I wasn't mad at her anymore. She didn't win. Her moment of sabotage became the very moment I stepped into my own power. She exposed herself to everyone, and in the process, gave me the one thing I'd never had in that family: undeniable truth. They saw her for who she really was. And they saw me, too. Not the girl she tried to make me out to be. Needy, emotional, dramatic. But the woman who had the grace to stay quiet while her enemy destroyed herself. So, no. I wasn't okay. I was better. I was free. And I had no intention of ever going back to the girl who smiled through tears just to keep other people comfortable. That girl deserved better, and I was finally ready to give it to her. For years, she tried to paint me as the villain. She never came out and said it outright. She was too careful for that. But she dropped hints, made snide comments, twisted the narrative just enough, so that it was always me who looked like the problem. To her, I was the outsider, the intruder, the girl who didn't fit the mold, who didn't come from their world, who somehow got the ring anyway. And she hated that. She hated that I had a place at the table, one she couldn't control. She wanted people to see me the way she did, as less than. And for a while, I think some of them did. Her words had a way of sounding harmless on the surface, but they cut. People started looking at me differently, questioning me, whispering, always in the kind of tone that says, "We're not saying you don't belong, but you should be grateful we let you stay." But when the truth came out, when her husband stood at the mic and said those words that echoed through the room like thunder, her mask didn't just slip. It shattered. No one could unsee it. The woman who always looked so composed was now the woman everyone felt sorry for, or embarrassed by, or disappointed in. Her husband filed for divorce a week later, quietly. No drama, no yelling. Just a clean, decisive break. He moved out, changed his number, blocked her. I heard from someone that he'd already spoken to a lawyer before the wedding, just in case. So he'd clearly known for a while. He was just waiting for the right moment. And apparently, that moment was my wedding. Her parents were devastated. And I don't say that with satisfaction. I say it because it was heartbreaking to watch. They looked at me differently after that. Not with pity. Not even guilt. Just grief. Grief for the daughter they thought they knew. Grief for the family they thought they had. They didn't try to defend her. They didn't make excuses. They just pulled away. From her. From the noise. From all of it. I didn't reach out. I didn't gloat. I didn't send passive-aggressive texts or repost shady quotes on social media. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. She didn't come to family gatherings after that. Birthdays, holidays, random dinners. She just stopped showing up. And when she did, it was always awkward. She'd sit quietly, barely speak. Everyone pretended not to notice. But the shift was obvious. She lost her shine, her hold, her power. And it wasn't because of me. That's the part I need to say out loud. It wasn't because of me. I didn't expose her. I didn't humiliate her. I didn't orchestrate anything. I didn't ruin her life. She did that all on her own. She was the one who cheated. She was the one who made that announcement. She was the one who turned my wedding into a spectacle. All I did was survive it. With grace. With silence. With dignity. And in the aftermath, I chose peace. I focused on my marriage. On building something real. Something rooted in truth. Because I knew how easily things could fall apart when lies are involved. I poured my energy into my home, into the people who truly saw me. I started creating a life that didn't revolve around trying to earn love from people who only knew how to weaponize it. I stopped obsessing over whether I was good enough for her family. And when I stopped trying to prove my worth, that's when I realized I had nothing to prove. I was never the villain. I was just her mirror. I showed her what it looked like to be chosen without manipulation, to be loved without conditions, to be included without scheming. And she couldn't stand that. Her downfall wasn't a result of one bad decision. It was years of resentment, dishonesty, and performance finally catching up to her. And still, I didn't hate her. I could have. I had every reason to. But instead, I felt sad for her, because she had so much. A husband who loved her, parents who adored her, a life that looked perfect from the outside. And it still wasn't enough. She still felt the need to compete, to sabotage, to destroy. And in the end, she destroyed herself. I used to wonder what revenge would feel like, what it would be like to finally win. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt calm. Still. Free. The truth did what I never could. It cleared the air. I stopped living under her shadow. And the crazy part is, I didn't even realize I was until I finally stepped out from under it. It's like I'd been breathing shallow my whole life and suddenly took my first deep breath. There's something powerful about knowing you didn't have to break anyone to rise. I didn't win by fighting her. I won by not becoming her. And when you know you stood tall when someone else tried to tear you down, that's a kind of peace no one can take from you. Now, when people talk about what happened, I don't flinch. I don't feel embarrassed or ashamed. I don't carry the weight of her actions like they're mine to explain. She wrote her own ending. And I started a brand new chapter. One where I am no longer the outsider trying to be accepted. One where I no longer let someone else's insecurities define my self-worth. One where I finally understand that the best revenge is living well and not needing revenge at all. It took me a long time to process what happened. Not just the moment she stood up at my wedding or the chaos that followed, but everything leading up to it. All the years I spent trying to make her like me. All the times I swallowed my pride just to keep the peace. All the little things I let slide because I didn't want to be seen as dramatic. It's strange how you can carry someone else's bitterness, like it's your responsibility. Like if you just try hard enough, be kind enough, small enough, they'll finally accept you. But some people don't want peace. They want control. And the moment they feel it slipping, they get dangerous. That's what I see now when I look back. I used to replay that moment. Her voice cutting through the room, her hand on her belly, that smug look on her face, and feel this wave of heat in my chest. Anger, embarrassment, grief. But now I feel grace, because she didn't just try to humiliate me. She tried to reduce me to a moment, a ruined moment, as if that would somehow define my worth. But it didn't. It revealed it. She wanted me to shrink, to feel ashamed, to crumble. But I didn't. And that changed something deep inside me. I started to realize that the pain I felt wasn't just from her betrayal. It was from years of giving away pieces of myself for the sake of being accepted. I gave too much. I stayed quiet too long. And I let her narrative shape the way I saw myself. Like I was always one wrong move away from being cast out. But what happened that day? It freed me. It forced me to stop seeking approval from people who only loved me when I stayed small. It made me finally ask myself, what if I stopped trying to belong to people who never made room for me in the first place? That's when I found my voice, the real one, the one that didn't apologize for existing, the one that didn't second-guess every word, the one that stopped needing validation from people who couldn't even validate themselves. And I'm not going to pretend like it was easy. Healing isn't pretty. It's not linear. There were days I cried without understanding why. Nights I replayed every conversation, wondering what I could have done differently, wondering if I was too sensitive, too emotional, too me. But slowly, gently, I started coming back to myself. I started laughing again. Real laughs, not the forced ones I used to give when I was trying to keep everyone comfortable. I started sleeping without grinding my teeth. I started speaking up without rehearsing what I wanted to say 5 times in my head. And somewhere along the way, I realized I was okay. More than okay. I was strong. Not because I fought back, not because I won, but because I didn't break. I didn't let her bitterness infect me. I didn't let her pain become mine. I didn't let her lies become my truth. And the beautiful thing, I didn't have to do anything to get justice. I didn't have to plan a revenge. The truth took care of it. Her mask fell off, and the world saw her, really saw her, without me lifting a finger. And the best part? Everything she tried to take away from me, I got to keep. Love, respect, peace. My husband never wavered. He saw me through all of it. He stood by me, not because I begged him to, not because I played some perfect part, but because he knew my heart. And that mattered more than anything she could have said or done. His parents, they came around too. I think seeing their daughter's mask fall off changed how they saw the rest of us. There was more humility after that, more quiet warmth, less performance. And though it wasn't perfect, it was real. And real was all I ever wanted. As for her, I haven't spoken to her in a long time. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm indifferent. That's when I knew I'd healed. When I could hear her name without tensing up. When I could tell the story without shaking. When I could pray for her, not with spite, but with sincerity. Because I don't want anyone living with that kind of self-destruction. She burned her own house down. And I walked away with my peace intact. There's something powerful in that. In choosing silence over spite. In choosing growth over gossip. In choosing grace, even when you were never given any. I'm no longer the girl who needs people to clap for her to feel worthy. I'm the woman who claps for herself. And if there's one thing I'd say to anyone listening, especially if you've been hurt, betrayed, made to feel small by someone who couldn't handle your light, it's this. You don't have to fight to be seen. The right people will see you, and the wrong ones. Eventually, they'll show themselves. All you have to do is stand in your truth. Let them unravel while you rise. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It isn't planned. It's just living in peace while the chaos you walked away from destroys itself. And now I live in peace. And I finally understand what freedom really feels like. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength or helped you feel seen, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me your story, your strength, your survival. Let's build a space where women uplift each other, where pain turns into power and silence turns into voice.